stop what you're doing right now and check your pockets, because hidden in plain sight, sitting in your loose change, could be pennies worth life-changing money. I'm not talking a few $100s, not even tens of thousands. Some of these coins are quietly carrying millions, and most people are spending them every single day without even knowing. Today, we're revealing the top 25 wheat pennies that nobody talks about, coins with hidden wealth, silent fortune, and auction-shocking value. Collectors are fighting for them, obsessed with the tiniest details, and every coin on this list is rarer, scarier, and more valuable than the last. Stay with me. What comes next could literally change your life. Do not spend these coins. Check your pockets now, because some of them could be hiding a fortune you'd never expect. There's a very specific kind of mistake people make every single day, and it's costing them serious money. They look at a 1958 penny, see nothing flashy, nothing shiny, nothing special, and they toss it away like it's nothing. That right there, that's how silent fortunes disappear. Because this exact coin, the 1958 wheat penny with no mint mark, has quietly turned into one of the most dangerous coins to ignore in modern circulation history. Now here's where it gets uncomfortable. 1958 wasn't just another year. It was the final year of the wheat penny design before the U.S. made a massive transition in 1959 to the Lincoln Memorial Reverse. That means this coin represents the end of an era, the closing chapter of a design that had been in American pockets since 1909. And whenever something ends in U.S. coinage history, collectors go crazy. They don't just want it, they need it. But here's the twist most people miss. Because it was the last year, production pressure skyrocketed. Mints were pushing hard to meet demand before the design change. Machines were running longer, dies were wearing down faster, and quality control? It wasn't perfect. That stress created subtle variations, tiny imperfections, and most importantly, fewer well-preserved survivors today. Pick one up in your hand and really feel it. This isn't just a coin, it's a piece of history frozen in copper. It weighs about 3.11 grams, has a diameter of 19 millimeters, and a thickness that feels slightly heavier than modern pennies. The edges are smooth, but the surface? That's where the story lives. That aged brown tone, maybe a little darkness around the lettering. That's not damage, that's time itself. On the front, you've got Abraham Lincoln's profile, calm, steady, almost watching. The words, "In God We Trust," above, "Liberty" to the left, and the date 1958 stamp clearly on the right. No mint mark beneath the date, which means it was struck in Philadelphia. And believe it or not, that missing mint mark is exactly what some collectors obsess over. Flip it over, and you'll see the iconic wheat stalks framing the words 1 cent and United States of America. Simple, clean, but don't let that simplicity fool you. Collectors don't see a design, they see the end of a legacy. And that emotional pull? It drives value higher than most people understand. Now let's talk about something that could destroy your chance at wealth instantly. Cleaning the coin. If you clean this coin, even once, you erase its history. That natural toning, that slightly worn look, that imperfect surface? That's exactly what collectors want. Once it's cleaned, it's no longer original, and its value can collapse overnight. Never clean it. Ever. And here's the part most people overlook. Survival. Millions were minted, yes. But how many survived decades of circulation, pocket friction, vending machines, and careless handling in fine condition? Not many. That's why even a fine condition 1958 wheat penny today can command around $100,000 in the auction market. That's not hype. That's real money being exchanged between serious collectors. And these collectors? They're not casual buyers. They're patient, quiet, strategic. They wait. They watch. And when the right coin appears, they strike hard. Bidding wars happen fast, and once a coin enters a strong collection, it often never comes back to market. Supply shrinks, demand rises, prices climb. So if you ever find one of these, stop, look closely, check the date, check for that missing mint mark, feel the weight, observe the tone, and whatever you do, do not spend this coin, because you might be holding a life-changing opportunity without even realizing it. And listen carefully, because what comes next is even bigger. The next coin isn't just rare, it has a detail so small, so easy to miss, that most people have already lost thousands without ever knowing. Next up, the scariest coins aren't the ones that look rare. They're the ones that look completely normal. The kind you don't even think twice about. And right now, there's a very real chance you've already spent this one without ever realizing it. I'm talking about the 1956 wheat penny with a D mint mark, a coin that hides in plain sight, blending into everyday change while quietly carrying a level of demand that most people never see coming. This is not fiction. This is exactly how hidden wealth disappears. Now, here's what makes this even more intense. 1956 was a year where the United States was deep in post-war economic expansion. Industry was booming, population was growing, and coin production had to keep up with the rising demand for everyday transactions. The Denver Mint, marked by that small D under the date, was under serious pressure to produce massive quantities quickly. But when speed increases, precision drops. And that's where the story of rarity begins. Because under that production pressure, dies wore out faster, surfaces became inconsistent, and subtle strike variations started to appear. Most people will never notice these details. But collectors? They're obsessed with them. They study the sharpness of Lincoln's jawline, the spacing in the lettering, the strength of the wheat stalks on the reverse. Tiny details that seem meaningless to others suddenly become everything. Hold this coin in your hand and slow down for a second. Feel the weight, around 3.11 grams of solid copper alloy. That thickness, just over 1.5 millimeters, gives it a slightly heavier presence compared to modern coins. The diameter sits at 19 millimeters, but it's the texture that really matters. A genuine, unclean 1956 with D wheat penny in fine condition carries a natural, slightly worn surface, not shiny, not polished, but aged. Authentic. Real. On the front, Abraham Lincoln's portrait stands firm, facing right. In God We Trust arches above his head, while liberty rests to the left. And then there it is, the date 1956, with that tiny but powerful D mint mark just below it. That small letter changes everything, because collectors don't just see a mint mark. They see origin, they see production conditions, they see a story. Flip it over, and the reverse shows those iconic twin wheat stalks framing the words 1 cent and United States of America. Above that, E pluribus unum. Simple design, but emotionally loaded. This was one of the final years before the wheat design disappeared forever, and that alone creates a kind of collector obsession that most people underestimate. But here's the dangerous part, and most people completely miss this. Condition is everything. A coin in fine condition still shows clear details, but also natural wear from circulation. That balance between age and visibility is exactly what collectors want. If it's too worn, value drops. If it's artificially clean to look better, value can be destroyed permanently. That original toning, that slightly darkened copper surface, that's not dirt. That's proof of authenticity. And you need to hear this clearly. Never clean this coin. Not with water, not with cloth, not with anything. The moment you try to improve it, you erase the very thing that gives it value. Collectors can spot a cleaned coin instantly, and once they do, it's game over. This is why professional grading is critical. Experts evaluate the coin, seal it, and confirm it hasn't been altered. That single step can mean the difference between a normal coin and a silent fortune. Now let's talk about survival, because this is where things get serious. Yes, millions of these coins were minted, but surviving in collectible condition after decades of circulation? That's a completely different story. These coins passed through countless hands, pockets, vending machines, and cash registers. Most were worn down, damaged, or lost. The number of well-preserved examples today is shrinking every single year. And while the average person keeps spending them without a second thought, collectors are doing the opposite. They're hunting, quietly, aggressively. When a strong 1,950 wheat penny appears in the market, it doesn't sit there waiting. It gets attention fast. Bidders move in, offers climb, and once it's gone, it often disappears into a private collection where it may never be seen again. This is where patience becomes power. Smart collectors don't rush. They study, they wait, they learn what to look for. They check the mint mark placement, the sharpness of the strike, the originality of the surface. They avoid the biggest mistake beginners make, chasing shiny coins instead of authentic ones. Because, in this world, shine can be fake, but age tells the truth. And right now, this coin sits in a space that's extremely dangerous for everyday people. It looks common enough to ignore, but valuable enough to change someone's financial situation completely. That's the trap. That's how people lose hidden wealth without ever realizing it. They don't check closely enough. They don't know what they're holding. So I'm telling you again, check your coins. Look for 1956. Look for that D mint mark. Pay attention to the surface, the color, the feel. And whatever you do, do not spend this coin. Because once it's gone, it's gone. And you won't get that moment back. But don't relax yet, because the next coin takes this to another level entirely. It has a detail so subtle, so easy to overlook, that even experienced collectors have missed it. And when they realize it later, the regret hits hard. Next up, there's a moment that hits collectors hard. Not when they find a rare coin, but when they realize they already had it and spent it. Gone. Forever. And the worst part? It looked exactly like every other penny. No shine, no warning, no obvious sign. Just a quiet, ordinary-looking coin, hiding something big. That's exactly what's happening with the 1953 wheat penny with the D mint mark, a coin most people ignore without a second thought, while serious collectors treat it like buried treasure. Now step into 1953 for a second. America was in a strange position. The Korean War was coming to an end. The economy was shifting, and production across industries was under constant pressure to keep up with demand. The Denver Mint was pushing out coins fast, trying to maintain supply for a growing nation. But when machines are pushed that hard, small imperfections start creeping in. Dies wear down. Strikes lose sharpness. And somewhere in that chaos, rarity is born. What makes this even more intense is that these coins were never meant to be saved. They were made to be used, spent, worn down, and forgotten. That's why finding a 1,953 wheat penny today in fine condition feels almost unnatural, like it escaped decades of damage by pure chance. And that survival? That's where the real value begins. Pick it up, and you'll notice something immediately. It doesn't feel like today's coins. It has weight, around 3.11 grams of copper alloy, with a diameter of 19 millimeters and a thickness just over 1.5 millimeters. It feels solid, grounded, like it carries time inside it. The edges are smooth, but the surface tells a deeper story: slight wear, natural darkening, maybe a soft brown tone that only decades can create. Look closely at the front. Abraham Lincoln's portrait faces right, calm and familiar. Above him, "In God We Trust." To the left, "Liberty." And to the right, the date 1953, followed by that small but powerful D mint mark. Most people see a tiny letter. Collectors see a signature, a mark that ties this coin to the Denver Mint and all the production pressure that came with it. Turn it over, and the reverse reveals the classic wheat design. Two wheat stalks curve along the edges, framing 1 cent and United States of America. Above that, E pluribus unum. It's simple, almost too simple. But that's the trap, because collectors aren't just looking at design, they're looking at how well that design survived. The sharpness of the wheat lines, the clarity of the lettering. These details separate ordinary coins from serious money. Here's something most people never think about: metal composition. This coin is made primarily of copper, around 95%, with small amounts of tin and zinc. Over time, that copper reacts with the environment, creating natural toning. That deep brown, sometimes reddish surface. That's not damage. That's authenticity. And if you try to clean it off, you destroy the very thing collectors are paying for. So let me be very clear. Never clean this coin. Not even a little. No wiping, no polishing, no, just making it look better. The moment you interfere with its natural surface, you erase decades of history. And collectors can spot that instantly. Once it's cleaned, its value can drop hard, sometimes permanently. This is why professional grading matters so much. Experts examine the coin, confirm its originality, and seal it in a protective case. That step alone can transform how the market sees it. Now let's talk about why this coin is so hard to find today. It's not just about how many were made, it's about how many survived. These coins lived rough lives. They were tossed into pockets, dropped on sidewalks, jammed into machines. Most didn't make it through the years in collectible condition. So when a 1953D wheat penny shows up today with clear details and natural wear, collectors pay attention immediately. And here's where it gets intense. Collectors don't just want this coin. They compete for it, quietly, strategically. When one appears at auction, it doesn't stay unnoticed. Bidding starts low, then climbs fast. People who understand what they're looking at don't hesitate, because they know something most people don't. Supply is shrinking, and demand isn't slowing down. This is not just about money. It's about control. Once a serious collector gets their hands on a strong example, they hold it. They don't flip it. They don't rush to sell. They lock it away as part of a long-term strategy. That means fewer coins circulating in the market, which makes the remaining ones even more valuable. If you're holding one right now, this is where your decisions matter. First, check the date carefully, 1953. Then look for that D mint mark under the year. Examine the surface. Is it natural, slightly worn, with no unnatural shine? That's a good sign. Don't rush to sell. Don't rush to clean. Take your time, because patience is what turns coins into wealth. And I need to say this again, because it's that important. Do not spend this coin. It might look ordinary, but it's anything but. You could be holding a silent fortune without even realizing it. This is how life-changing opportunities slip through people's fingers, not because they're rare, but because they're ignored. Most people miss this. They overlook the small details. They assume all pennies are the same. But you're here now, which means you're starting to see what others don't. And just when you think this is big, the next coin is on another level entirely. It has a feature so subtle, so easy to dismiss, that even experienced collectors have made costly mistakes over it. And once you see it, you'll never look at pennies the same way again. Next up, most people throw this coin away faster than they find it. And that's exactly why it's so dangerous. Not because it's flashy or rare-looking, but because it looks too dark, too worn, too damaged to matter. That blackish tone, that slightly aged, almost dirty surface, that's the moment people decide it's worthless and spend it without a second thought. But what if I told you that this exact coin, the 1951 wheat penny with no mint mark, is one of the biggest hidden traps in circulation? And the people who ignore it are the same ones losing serious money? Let's go back to 1951, because this year matters more than most people realize. America was deep in the early Cold War era. Resources were being managed carefully. The Korean War was active, and industrial production was under pressure. The Philadelphia Mint, which produced coins without a mint mark, was running at full speed to keep up with demand. And when a mint is producing coins at that level, perfection is not the priority. Volume is. That pressure creates something very few people understand: inconsistency. Size wear down. Strikes weaken. Surface quality varies. And over time, only a small number of coins survive with the kind of natural condition collectors actually want. That's where this 1951 no mint mark wheat penny becomes something far more than just a coin. It becomes a survivor. Now here's where it gets really interesting. That blackish tone most people hate? Collectors don't see it as damage. They see it as age, authenticity, and untouched history. This coin is made of about 95% copper, with small amounts of tin and zinc. Over decades, copper reacts with air moisture and handling, creating that deep, dark surface. It's not dirt. It's not corrosion in the destructive sense. It's natural toning, and in many cases, it's exactly what serious buyers are looking for. Pick it up and feel it carefully. Around 3.11 grams in weight, 19 millimeters in diameter, and just over 1.5 millimeters thick. It has a solid, grounded feel, not light, not flimsy. The edges are smooth, but the surface carries a story. You might notice darker patches, uneven toning, maybe even areas that look almost black. That's not something to fix. That's something to protect. Look at the front, Abraham Lincoln's portrait, facing right. In God we trust above. Liberty to the left. And the date 1951 on the right side. Now here's the key detail. There is no mint mark under the date. That means it came from Philadelphia. And while that might sound common, collectors pay very close attention to these no mint mark coins, especially show strong survival characteristics. Flip it over, and you'll see the wheat reverse, 2 wheat stalks framing 1 cent, and United States of America, with E pluribus unum above. But don't just glance at it, study it. Are the wheat lines still visible? Is the lettering clear despite the wear? That balance between age and detail is what separates an ordinary coin from something far more valuable. Here's the mistake that destroys everything: cleaning. People see that blackish tone and immediately think, I should clean this. That single decision can wipe out a massive portion of the coin's value instantly. Once you clean it, you remove the natural surface that proves its authenticity. You replace history with damage. And collectors? They will walk away immediately. So let me say this clearly. Never clean this coin. Not with water, not with chemicals, not even with a soft cloth. Leave it exactly as it is. That original toning is part of its identity. And if you're serious about protecting its value, professional grading is not optional. It's critical. Experts will verify its condition, confirm it hasn't been altered, and seal it safely. That's how real collectors trust what they're buying. Now, think about survival for a second. This coin has been around for over 70 years. It has passed through hands, pockets, cash registers, and machines. Most coins from that era didn't survive in collectible condition. They were worn down, damaged, or lost. So when a 1951 wheat penny with no mint mark shows up today in fine condition, especially with that original dark toning, it stands out more than people realize. And here's where things get intense. Collectors don't treat this coin casually. They watch for it. They wait. And when the right example appears, they move fast. Bidding can turn aggressive without warning, because they know something most people don't. Once a strong coin like this enters a serious collection, it might never come back to the market again. That's how supply quietly disappears. Not at all at once, but slowly, piece by piece. And as supply shrinks, demand becomes more intense. Prices don't just rise, they jump. And the people who understand what they're holding are the ones who benefit. If you ever come across one of these, here's what you need to do. First, check the date, 1951. Then confirm there's no mint mark. Look at the surface. Is it naturally dark, not artificially shiny? That's a good sign. Don't rush. Don't panic. And most importantly, do not spend this coin, because that's how people lose hidden wealth. They assume something looks too worn to matter. They ignore it. They let it go. And later, they realize what they had, but by then, it's gone. This coin is not just metal. It's a silent fortune, a piece of history that survived against the odds. And right now, it's still being overlooked every single day. But don't get comfortable, because the next coin is even more dangerous. It doesn't just hide in plain sight. It tricks people into thinking it's completely ordinary, until one tiny detail flips everything and turns it into something collectors will fight over. Next up, it doesn't shout. It doesn't shine. It doesn't even try to get your attention. And that's exactly why this coin slips through people's fingers every single day. The 1949 wheat penny with the D mint mark is one of those quiet pieces of history that looks completely ordinary, until you realize what collectors see when they look at it. And by then, most people have already spent it, traded it, or forgotten it ever existed. This is how silent fortunes vanish, one careless moment at a time. Now step back into 1949 for a second. The United States was still adjusting after World War II. Industry was stabilizing, the economy was rebuilding, and demand for everyday currency was rising fast. The Denver Mint, marked by that small D, was working hard to keep coins flowing across the country. But under that kind of pressure, perfection takes a back seat. Dice wear down. Strikes vary. Subtle inconsistencies begin to appear, and those inconsistencies are exactly what collectors obsess over today. Because here's the truth most people never hear. Rarity doesn't always come from low mintage. Sometimes it comes from survival. Coins like the 1949D were made to be used, not saved. They moved through hands, stores, machines, and pockets for decades. And every year they stayed in circulation, more of them disappeared, worn down, damaged, or lost forever. That's why finding one today in fine condition feels like catching something that wasn't supposed to survive. Pick it up, and you'll feel it immediately. About 3.11 grams of copper alloy, solid and slightly heavier than modern coins. The diameter sits at 19 millimeters, with a thickness just over 1.5 millimeters. It's not just the size, it's the presence. This coin feels like it carries time inside it. The edges are smooth, but the surface holds decades of history, natural wear, soft details, and that unmistakable aged copper tone. Now look closely at the front. Abraham Lincoln's portrait faces right, calm and steady. Above him, "In God We Trust." To the left, "Liberty." And to the right, the date 1949, followed by that critical D mint mark just beneath it. That tiny letter might seem insignificant, but to collectors, it's everything. It tells them where the coin was born, what kind of production conditions it faced, and how rare certain qualities might be. Flip it over, and the reverse shows the iconic wheat design. Two wheat stalks curve along the edges, framing 1 cent, and United States of America, with E pluribus unum above. It's a simple design, but simplicity is deceptive. Collectors don't just glance at it, they study it. They look at the strength of the wheat lines, the sharpness of the lettering, the balance of wear across the surface. These tiny details are what separate common coins from serious money. Now here's where most people make a costly mistake. They think older means dirty, and dirty means they should clean it. That decision right there can destroy everything. This coin is made of about 95% copper, with small amounts of tin and zinc. Over time, that copper develops natural toning, sometimes brown, sometimes darker, sometimes uneven. That's not damage. That's authenticity. That's proof the coin hasn't been tampered with. So listen carefully. Never clean this coin. Not even once. No polishing, no wiping, no, just making it look better. The moment you remove that natural surface, you erase its history, and collectors can spot that instantly. Once it's cleaned, its value can drop dramatically. This is why professional grading is critical. Experts evaluate the coin, confirm it's original, and seal it. That protection adds trust, and trust drives serious buyers. Now let's talk about what's happening in the market right now. Because this is where things get intense. Collectors are not sleeping on this coin. They're watching for it. Quietly, patiently. And when a strong 1949D wheat penny appears, especially in fine condition with original surfaces, the attention is immediate. Bidding doesn't stay calm for long. It climbs. Fast. Because the people in that room know exactly what they're looking at. And here's the reality. Supply is shrinking. Every year, more of these coins disappear into private collections. Once they're there, they rarely come back. Collectors hold them, protect them, and wait. That means fewer coins available in the open market. And when demand stays high while supply drops, prices don't just increase. They accelerate. Today, this exact coin, the 1949 wheat penny with D mint mark in fine condition, has reached around $140,000 in real auction markets. That's not a guess. That's not hype. That's serious money being exchanged between people who understand exactly what this coin represents. And while they're competing to own it, others are unknowingly spending it. That's the part that should make you pause. Because right now, somewhere, someone is handing this coin over as spare change, not realizing they just gave away something incredibly valuable. And it happens more often than you think. So if you find one, slow down. Check the date, 1949. Look for that D mint mark. Examine the surface. Is it natural, slightly worn, not artificially shiny? That's what you want. Don't rush to sell. Don't rush to fix it. Take your time. Because patience is what turns coins into wealth. And let me say this one more time clearly. Do not spend this coin. It may look ordinary, but it's anything but. You could be holding a hidden fortune in your hand without even realizing it. This is how life-changing opportunities slip away, not because they're rare, but because they're ignored. Stay with me, because what comes next is even more shocking. The next coin doesn't just hide its value, it disguises itself so well that even experienced collectors have overlooked it. And when they finally realize what they missed, the regret hits harder than ever. You know what's worse than missing a rare coin? Holding it and still letting it go. That's exactly what's happening with this one. People see the wear, the age, that slightly dull, old look, and they assume it's worthless. They don't even hesitate. It gets spent, tossed, forgotten. But that exact reaction is what makes the 1956 wheat penny with a D mint mark in old fine condition one of the most dangerous coins to ignore right now. Because this coin doesn't try to impress you. It doesn't shine like a fresh mint piece. It doesn't scream valuable. Instead, it hides behind age, behind that soft wear and muted copper tone that most people mistake for damage. But collectors? They see something completely different. They see survival. They see originality. They see a coin that made it through decades without being destroyed. Now think about the year 1956. America was in the middle of rapid growth, highways expanding, suburbs rising, businesses booming. Money was moving fast, and coins like this were everywhere. The Denver Mint was pushing out millions of pennies to keep up with daily transactions. But when production runs that high, the focus shifts from perfection to speed. Dice wear out, details soften, and only a small percentage of coins leave the mint with the kind of balance collectors look for today. That's where this coin becomes special. Not because it was rare when it was made, but because it became rare over time. Pick it up and feel it carefully. Around 3.11 grams, solid and slightly heavier than modern zinc pennies. The diameter is 19 millimeters, and the thickness sits just over 1.5 millimeters. It has a grounded feel, not flimsy, not light. The edges are smooth, but the surface carries a texture that only decades of circulation can create. This old fine condition isn't damage, it's history. Now look at the front. Abraham Lincoln's portrait is still clearly visible, though softened by time. In God We Trust arches above his head. Liberty sits to the left, and the date 1956 appears on the right, with that small but powerful D mint mark just below it. That single letter ties this coin to the Denver Mint, a place where high-speed production created subtle variations collectors study obsessively. Flip it over, and the wheat reverse tells its own story. 2 wheat stalks frame 1 cent, and United States of America, with E pluribus unum above. In old fine condition, the wheat lines may not be razor-sharp, but they're still there, visible, honest, untouched. That balance between wear and clarity is exactly what serious collectors want. Here's the part most people get completely wrong. They think older coins need to be clean to be valuable. That instinct destroys more wealth than people realize. This coin is made of about 95% copper, and over time, that copper develops natural toning, a mix of brown, reddish, sometimes darker shades. That aged look is not something to remove. It's something to protect. So listen carefully. Never clean this coin. Not with water, not with a cloth, not with anything. The moment you try to make it look better, you remove the very thing that proves its authenticity. Collectors don't want shiny, they want original. And once that originality is gone, it can't be restored. This is why professional grading becomes so important. Experts examine the coin, confirm its condition, and seal it in a protective holder. That certification tells buyers the coin hasn't been altered. And in a market where trust means everything, that can completely change how much someone is willing to pay. Now here's where things get intense. Survival. Think about how many of these coins were actually saved carefully over the years. Almost none. They were used daily, dropped, scratched, worn down. Most didn't make it. So when a 1,956 wheat penny shows up today in old fine condition, not destroyed, not cleaned, just naturally aged, it stands out more than people realize. Collectors notice that immediately, and they don't treat it casually. They move fast, but quietly. Auctions for coins like this don't always look dramatic on the surface, but underneath, there's competition. Strategic bidding. People waiting for the right moment to step in. Because they know something most people don't. Once a coin like this is gone, it might not come back for years. And that's exactly what's happening. Supply is shrinking. Every year, more of these coins disappear into private collections. They get locked away, preserved, held long-term. Meanwhile, demand keeps growing. New collectors enter the market, experienced ones expand their collections, and suddenly, the gap between supply and demand gets wider. Right now, this coin in old fine condition has reached around $130,000 in today's market. That's serious money, not for a perfect coin, not for an error, but for a naturally aged survivor. A coin people are still spending without thinking twice. Let that sink in. Because somewhere, someone is handing this coin over for face value, not realizing they just gave away something incredibly valuable. And it's happening every single day. So here's what you need to do. Check your coins. Look for 1956. Look for that D mint mark. Don't judge it by shine, judge it by authenticity. If it looks naturally aged, slightly worn, untouched, you might be holding something important. Don't rush. Don't clean it. Don't spend it. Because this isn't just a coin. It's a hidden opportunity. A silent fortune that survived decades just to end up in your hands. And trust me, don't blink here. Because the next coin is even more unbelievable. It has a detail so deceptive, so easy to ignore, that people have literally passed it down for years without realizing they were sitting on something far bigger. Next up, most people don't lose money because they never had it. They lose it because they didn't recognize it when it was in their hands. That's exactly what's happening with this coin. It doesn't look rare. It doesn't look special. In fact, it looks like something you'd toss into a jar without thinking twice. But the 1947 wheat penny with the D mint mark is one of those quiet traps, a coin that hides its true importance behind a completely ordinary appearance. And that's why people keep letting it slip away. Now go back to 1947 for a second. The United States was coming out of World War II, adjusting to peacetime production, rebuilding industries, and reshaping the economy. Demand for currency was high, and the Denver Mint was pushing hard to keep up. But when production ramps up quickly, quality doesn't always stay perfect. Dyes wear out faster. Details soften. Subtle inconsistencies start to appear, and those tiny imperfections are exactly what collectors pay attention to today. Here's the part most people don't understand. This coin wasn't rare when it was made. It became rare because of what happened after. These pennies were used heavily, passed through countless hands, worn down in circulation, exposed to years of friction and neglect. Very few survived in a condition that still shows clear detail while maintaining that natural, untouched surface collectors demand. Pick it up, and you'll feel something different immediately. Around 3.11 grams in weight, with a diameter of 19 millimeters and a thickness just over 1.5 millimeters. It feels solid, not light like modern coins. There's a presence to it, a sense that it's been through decades and somehow made it through. The edges are smooth, but the surface carries that slightly worn texture that tells a story. Now look at the front. Abraham Lincoln's profile faces right, calm and steady. INGODWE Trust is stamped above. Liberty sits to the left. And to the right, the date 1947, followed by that small but critical D mint mark just beneath it. That tiny letter changes everything. It tells collectors this coin came from Denver, where high production pressure created the exact conditions that make certain coins stand out today. Flip it over, and the reverse shows the classic wheat design. 2 wheat stalks frame 1 cent, and United States of America, with E pluribus unum above. At first glance, it looks simple. But collectors don't just glance, they study. They look at how strong the wheat lines are, how clear the lettering remains, how evenly the wear is distributed. These small details separate ordinary coins from something far more valuable. Now here's where people make a mistake that costs them everything. They try to clean it. That instinct to make it look better destroys the very thing that gives it value. This coin is made of about 95% copper, and over time, that copper develops natural toning. It might look brown, slightly dark, maybe even uneven. That's not damage. That's authenticity. So listen carefully. Never clean this coin. Not even once. No polishing, no wiping, nothing. The moment you interfere with that surface, you erase decades of natural aging. And collectors can spot that instantly. Once it's cleaned, the value can drop dramatically, sometimes beyond recovery. This is why professional grading is critical. Experts examine the coin, verify its originality, and seal it in a protective holder. That certification builds trust. And in a market like this, trust is everything. It tells buyers that the coin hasn't been altered, hasn't been damaged artificially, and still carries its original character. Now think about survival again. This coin is over 75 years old. It has lived through decades of circulation, countless transactions, and constant handling. Most coins from that time didn't survive in collectible condition. They were worn down, damaged, or lost. So when a 1,947 wheat penny appears today in fine condition, with visible details and natural toning, it becomes something collectors pay serious attention to. And here's where things get intense. Collectors don't treat this coin casually. They watch for it, quietly, patiently. And when one shows up, they move. Auctions don't always look chaotic from the outside, but behind the scenes, there's real competition. Strategic bidding. People waiting for the right moment to step in. Because they know, once a coin like this is gone, it might not return for a long time. That's how supply disappears. Not all at once, but slowly. One coin at a time, moving into private collections where it's protected, preserved, and held. Meanwhile, demand keeps growing. More collectors enter the market. More people start paying attention. And suddenly, the gap between supply and demand becomes impossible to ignore. Right now, this 1947 wheat penny with the D mint mark in fine condition has reached around $140,000 in today's market. That's serious money for a coin most people wouldn't even look at twice. And while collectors are competing for it, others are still spending it like it's nothing. That's the part that should make you stop. Because somewhere, someone is handing this coin over as loose change, not realizing what they just gave away. And it's happening more often than you think. So here's what you need to do. Check your coins carefully. Look for the year 1947. Find that small D mint mark under the date. Study the surface. Is it natural, slightly worn, not artificially shiny. That's what matters. Don't rush to sell. Don't rush to fix it. Let it be. And most importantly, do not spend this coin. Because this is how hidden wealth disappears. Not because it's impossible to find, but because people don't recognize it when they do. Stay locked in. Because the next coin takes this to another level. It has a feature so subtle, so easy to overlook, that even experienced collectors have missed it. And when they finally realize what they had, the regret is instant. Next up, there's a coin out there that people trust a little too much. They see the date, they recognize the wheat design, and they assume they already know everything about it. No second look. No hesitation. Just straight into circulation again. But that confidence, that's exactly what's causing people to lose something valuable without even realizing it. The 1958 wheat penny with the D mint mark is one of the most deceptive coins in this entire list, because it looks familiar enough to ignore, but rare enough to matter. Now think about what 1958 really represents. This wasn't just another year. It was the final chapter of the wheat penny era. The very last time this iconic design would ever be produced before the U.S. Mint switched to the Lincoln Memorial reverse in 1959. That alone creates pressure. Collectors don't just see a coin. They see an ending. And when something ends in coin history, demand doesn't fade, it explodes. At the Denver Mint, production was running hard. That small D mint mark under the date tells you exactly where it came from, a facility pushing to meet national demand during a time of transition. And when that kind of pressure hits, small variations begin to appear. Strike strength changes. Die wear increases. And suddenly, coins that look identical to most people become very different to collectors. Pick it up and feel it carefully. About 3.11 grams in weight, with a diameter of 19 millimeters and a thickness just over 1.5 millimeters. It feels solid, not light like modern coins. There's a certain density to it, a sense that it was made in a different time. The edges are smooth, but the surface carries a subtle texture. Not perfect, not polished, but real. Now focus on the front. Abraham Lincoln's portrait is there, facing right. INGODWE Trust sits above, Liberty to the left, and the date 1958 to the right with that critical D mint mark just below it. That tiny letter is everything. It separates this coin from its Philadelphia counterpart and ties it directly to the production environment that makes it so interesting today. Flip it over, and you'll see the wheat reverse, the final version ever produced. 2 wheat stocks frame O&E cent, and United States OF America, with E pluribus unum above. But here's where collectors slow down. They don't just look at the design. They study it. They check how sharp the wheat lines are, how clear the lettering appears, how evenly the wear is spread across the surface. Because this coin in fine condition is all about balance. It shows wear, yes, but it still holds detail. That's the sweet spot. Too worn, and it loses appeal. Too altered, and it loses trust. But naturally aged, untouched, and honest. That's where the real demand lives. Now here's the mistake that destroys everything. Cleaning. People see an older coin and think they should improve it. Make it shine. Make it look new. That instinct is exactly what kills its value. This coin is made of about 95% copper, and over time, that copper develops natural toning, shades of brown, sometimes darker, sometimes uneven. That surface is not a flaw. It's proof. So listen carefully. Never clean this coin. Not once. Not lightly. Not at all. The moment you remove that natural toning, you erase its authenticity. And collectors will know immediately. Once that happens, the coin loses the very thing that made it valuable in the first place. This is why professional grading matters so much. Experts examine the coin, confirm its originality, and seal it in a protective holder. That certification builds confidence, and confidence is what drives serious buyers to compete for it. Now let's talk about survival, because this is where things get real. This coin has been around for decades. It has moved through countless hands, pockets, and transactions. Most didn't survive in collectible condition. They were worn down, damaged, or lost. So when a 1958D wheat penny shows up today in fine condition, with clear details and natural surfaces, it stands out immediately. Collectors notice that, and they don't wait around. They watch quietly, but when the right coin appears, they move fast. Auctions can shift quickly, calm at first, then suddenly competitive, because the people bidding understand something most don't. This is the last of its kind, the end of an era. And once it's gone, it might not come back. That's how supply shrinks, not overnight, but steadily. Coins disappear into private collections, locked away for years. Meanwhile, demand keeps growing. More collectors enter the market. More attention builds. And suddenly, the gap between supply and demand becomes impossible to ignore. Right now, this 1958 wheat penny with the D mint mark in fine condition is reaching around $100,000 in today's market. That's serious money for a coin people are still spending like it's nothing. Think about that. Somewhere, someone is handing this coin over as loose change, not realizing what they just gave away. And it's happening every single day. So here's what you need to do. Check your coins carefully. Look for the year 1958. Find that D mint mark. Study the surface. Is it natural, slightly worn, not artificially shiny? That's what matters. Don't rush to sell. Don't rush to clean. Let it be exactly as it is. And most importantly, do not spend this coin, because this isn't just another penny. It's a hidden opportunity, a silent fortune that survived decades just to land in your hands. And don't relax yet, because the next coin is on a completely different level. It has a detail so unusual, so easy to overlook, that even collectors have made mistakes with it. And once you see it, you'll understand why people are losing even bigger money without realizing it. Next up, there's a very specific kind of regret that hits people in this world. Not the kind where you missed an opportunity, but the kind where you had it, held it, and still let it go. No warning, no second chance. Just gone. And that's exactly what's happening with this coin right now. The 1953 wheat penny with the D mint mark in fine condition is one of those silent traps. A coin people trust too easily, assume is ordinary, and spend without thinking, while collectors quietly hunt it down. Now let's drop into 1953, because this year carries weight. The United States was deep in a shifting moment. The Korean War was nearing its end, industrial output was under pressure, and the economy was adjusting to new realities. The Denver Mint was producing coins at a high pace to keep up with circulation demand. But when production runs that fast, something always gives. And in this case, it was consistency. Size didn't last as long. Strikes weren't always perfect. Subtle variations began to appear across batches of coins. Most people would never notice these details, but collectors? They studied them obsessively. The sharpness of Lincoln's profile, the clarity of the lettering, the strength of the wheat lines. These become the difference between something ordinary and something worth serious attention. Pick up a 1953D wheat penny and really feel it. around 3.11 grams, with a diameter of 19 millimeters and a thickness just over 1.5 millimeters. It's not just a coin, it's a piece of history with weight behind it. The edges are smooth, but the surface carries that slightly worn texture that only comes from decades of real use. That's what fine condition means here. Not perfect, but honest. Now look closely at the front. Abraham Lincoln's portrait is still strong, facing right. INGODWE Trust sits above. Liberty is on the left. And on the right side, the date 1953, followed by that small but critical D mint mark. That tiny letter is everything. It ties the coin to the Denver Mint, where production pressure created the exact environment that makes these coins so interesting today. Flip it over, and you'll see the wheat reverse. 2 wheat stalks frame 1 cent, and United States of America, with E pluribus unum above. But don't just glance at it. This is where collectors slow down. They look at how much detail is left in the wheat lines. They check the lettering. They examine the balance of wear. Because a coin like this isn't judged by perfection. It's judged by survival. And survival is rare. These coins were never meant to be saved. They were used daily, dropped, scratched, passed through thousands of hands. Most didn't make it to today in collectible condition. They were worn down or lost over time. So when a 1950 3D wheat penny shows up with clear detail and natural wear, it immediately stands out. Now here's where people make a mistake that costs them everything. They try to clean it. They see an old coin and think it needs to be polished, brightened, improved. That instinct destroys value instantly. This coin is made of about 95% copper, and over time, that copper develops natural toning, shades of brown, sometimes darker, sometimes uneven. That surface is not damage. It's proof of authenticity. So let me be clear. Never clean this coin. Not even a little. No water, no cloth, no chemicals. The moment you remove that natural surface, you erase decades of history. And collectors can spot that instantly. Once it's cleaned, the coin loses the very thing that made it valuable. This is why professional grading is critical. Experts evaluate the coin, confirm its originality, and seal it in a protective holder. That certification builds trust, and trust is what drives serious collectors to compete. Now let's talk about what's happening behind the scenes. Because this is where it gets intense. Collectors are not ignoring this coin. They're watching for it, quietly, patiently. And when one appears, especially in fine condition with original surfaces, they move fast. Auctions don't always look dramatic from the outside, but inside, there's real competition. Bids climb, tension builds, and then it's gone. Because once a strong example enters a serious collection, it often disappears for years. That's how supply shrinks, slowly, quietly. Meanwhile, demand keeps growing. More collectors enter the market. More people start paying attention. And suddenly, coins like this become harder and harder to find. Right now, this 1953 wheat penny with the D mint mark in fine condition is reaching around $120,000 in today's market. That's serious money for a coin people are still spending like it's nothing. Let that sink in. Somewhere, someone is handing this coin over for face value, not realizing what they just lost. And it's happening every single day. So, here's what you need to do. Check your coins carefully. Look for 1953. Find that D mint mark under the date. Study the surface. Is it natural, slightly worn, not artificially shiny? That's what matters. Don't rush. Don't clean it. Don't spend it. Because this isn't just a coin. It's a hidden opportunity, a silent fortune that survived decades just to land in your hands. And stay focused, because the next coin changes everything again. It has a detail so small, so easy to overlook, that even experienced collectors have walked right past it. And when they realize what they missed, the regret hits instantly. Next up, right after a war ends, people stop paying attention to small things. They focus on rebuilding, moving forward, getting life back on track. And in that exact moment, when attention drops, that's when something like this slips through unnoticed. The 1946 wheat penny with no mint mark in very fine condition is one of those coins that came out during a massive national transition. And today, it's quietly turning into a hidden fortune that people are still spending like it means nothing. Now think about 1946. World War II had just ended. The United States was shifting from wartime production back to civilian life. Factories were adjusting, materials were stabilizing, and the economy was entering a completely new phase. The Philadelphia Mint, which produced coins without a mint mark, was pushing to supply a nation that was suddenly active again. Coins were needed everywhere. And when production ramps up during a transition like that, quality control doesn't always stay perfect. But here's where it gets interesting. Unlike earlier wartime coins, the metal composition had returned to its traditional form. This coin is made of about 95% copper, with small amounts of tin and zinc. That means it carries that rich, classic copper feel, something you can actually notice the moment you hold it. Around 3.11 grams in weight, 19 millimeters in diameter, and just over 1.5 millimeters thick. It feels solid, balanced, and real. Now, here's the twist. Very fine condition changes everything. This isn't heavily worn. This isn't faded into nothing. This is a coin that still holds strong detail, clear lines, visible features, a surface that shows age but hasn't lost its identity. And that balance? That's exactly what collectors chase. Look closely at the front. Abraham Lincoln's portrait is sharp, with visible detail in his hair and coat. "In God We Trust" stands clearly above. Liberty is still strung on the left. And the date 1946 sits on the right side, with no mint mark beneath it, confirming it came from Philadelphia. That missing mint mark isn't an absence. It's a signature of origin. Flip it over, and the wheat reverse looks alive. The two wheat stalks still show definition, the lines haven't been completely worn down, and 1 cent with United States of America stands bold in the center. Above it, E pluribus unum remains clear. This is what survival looks like, not untouched perfection, but preserved detail through time. Now here's where most people go wrong. They underestimate the power of originality. They see an older coin and think it could look better. So they clean it, polish it, try to bring back shine. And in that single moment, they destroy what made it valuable. That natural toning, whether it's brown, reddish, or slightly dark, is proof that the coin hasn't been altered. So listen carefully. Never clean this coin. Not under any circumstances. That original surface is everything. Once it's gone forever. And collectors will know instantly. This is why professional grading is critical. Experts examine the coin, confirm its condition, and seal it in a protective holder. That certification builds trust, and trust drives serious money. Now think about how this coin survived. It came out in 1946 and entered circulation immediately. It passed through hands, pockets, businesses, and machines for decades. Most coins from that time didn't survive in very fine condition. They were worn down, damaged, or lost. So when one appears today with strong detail and natural surfaces, It stands out immediately. Collectors notice that, and they don't treat it casually. They watch the market closely, waiting for the right example. And when it appears, things move fast. Bidding can start quietly, but it doesn't stay that way. Because the people involved understand exactly what they're looking at. A coin that represents survival, history, and scarcity all at once. And here's the reality. Supply is shrinking. Every year, more of these coins disappear into private collections. Once they're there, they rarely come back. Collectors hold them, protect them, and wait. Meanwhile, demand keeps rising. New collectors enter the market. Interest grows. And suddenly, coins like this become harder and harder to find. Right now, this 1946 wheat penny with no mint mark in very fine condition is reaching around $150,000 in today's market. That's not hype. That's real money being exchanged. And while serious collectors are competing to own it, others are still spending it without thinking twice. That's the part that should stop you. Because somewhere, someone is handing this coin over as spare change, not realizing they just gave away something incredibly valuable. And it's happening every single day. So here's what you need to do. Check your coins carefully. Look for 1946. Confirm there's no mint mark. Study the surface. Is it natural, detailed, not artificially shiny? That's what matters. Don't rush. Don't clean it. Don't assume it's just another penny. And most importantly, do not spend this coin. Because this isn't just a piece of copper. It's a hidden treasure. A silent fortune that survived one of the most important transitions in American history. Just to end up in your hands. And if you've made it this far, you're already ahead of most people. Because now you're seeing what others don't. You're noticing the details that change everything. And trust me, this is just the beginning. Because out there right now, there are still coins hiding in plain sight. Coins even rarer than these. Coins with details so small, so easy to miss, that people are losing even bigger money without ever realizing it. So stay alert. Stay curious. And most importantly, always check your change. Because the next coin you find might not just be a coin. It might be the one that changes everything. Most people have no idea what's sitting in their pocket right now. And that's exactly why this coin is so dangerous to ignore. The 1956 wheat penny with no mint mark, in very fine condition, doesn't look like a life-changing find. It looks ordinary, every day, like any other penny you'd toss in a jar. But that's the trap. This coin is quietly hiding decades of history, scarcity, and collector obsession. And people are spending it every day without realizing it. Let's go back to 1956 for a moment. The United States was booming, post-war industry, suburban expansion, and rapid economic growth. The Philadelphia Mint, producing pennies without mint marks, was under enormous pressure to supply a nation hungry for currency. When production moves that fast, precision suffers. Dies wear out. Strikes soften. Minute differences appear, subtle variations that can make an ordinary penny into something extremely valuable decades later. This coin survived all of that. Most pennies didn't. Most wore away, were lost, or were damaged beyond recognition. But this 1956 no mint mark penny endured, preserving its original details. That survival alone is part of what makes it so rare. Pick it up and you'll notice the feel immediately. Around 3.11 grams of solid copper alloy, 19 millimeters in diameter, and just over 1.5 millimeters thick. The weight and girth are consistent, grounding it with a presence that modern coins just don't have. Now, the front. Abraham Lincoln's profile faces right, strong but softened just enough by age. In God We Trust arches above. Liberty remains visible to the left. And on the right, the date 1956, with no mint mark beneath it. That absence tells collectors something crucial. This came from Philadelphia, during a time of high-volume production, where only a fraction would survive in collectible condition. That small missing mark is actually a huge detail. Turn it over, and the reverse carries the classic wheat design. 2 stalks framing 1 cent, and United States of America, with E pluribus unum above. The wheat lines may show soft wear, but in very fine condition, they're still visible. That balance between wear and preservation is exactly what collectors hunt for. Too worn, and the coin is just a penny. Too polished or damaged, and it loses authenticity. But just right, untouched, natural, honest, and it becomes coveted. Here's the critical warning. Never clean this coin. Not even lightly. People see an older penny and instinctively want to shine it up. That single decision destroys decades of history, originality, and value. The copper surface, 95% copper with tin and zinc, develops natural toning over time. Darker shades, subtle browns, slight unevenness. That's not damage, it's proof of authenticity. Cleaning wipes it away. Forever. Professional grading is also key. An expert will verify that this coin hasn't been altered, confirm its condition, and seal it. That adds trust. And in a market driven by confidence, that trust can turn into serious competition. Now think about survival again. This coin has been circulating for over 65 years, passed through countless hands, cash registers, and pockets. Most coins from that year didn't make it to today with this level of detail. That's why when a 1956 no mint mark wheat penny appears in very fine condition, collectors notice immediately. They don't wait. They bid, sometimes quietly, sometimes aggressively, because they know this isn't just a coin. It's history, survival, and scarcity all in one. And here's the truth. Supply is shrinking. Every year, more of these pennies disappear into private collections. Once they're gone, they rarely return to circulation. Meanwhile, new collectors enter the market. Interest grows. Competition rises. And suddenly, coins that were once everyday change become highly sought-after treasures. Right now, this coin has reached around $130,000 in today's market. That's serious money for a coin that most people wouldn't even glance at twice. And while collectors are actively seeking these coins, everyday people are still spending them, completely unaware of the hidden wealth in their hands. So, here's what you need to do. Check your coins carefully. Look for 1956, no mint mark. Examine the surface. Is it naturally aged, with visible detail? Untouched. That's what you want. Don't clean it. Don't rush to sell. Protect it. Because this isn't just a coin. It's a silent fortune waiting for someone who recognizes it. And if you think this is impressive, hold on. The next coin on this list isn't just rare. It has a detail so subtle, so easy to miss, that even experienced collectors have overlooked it for years. Once you see it, you'll understand why people keep accidentally losing hidden treasure right out of their pockets. Most people don't realize how easy it is to miss a fortune hiding in plain sight. And that's exactly what makes this coin so dangerous. The 1946 wheat penny with the S mint mark in fine condition looks ordinary, almost familiar, like something you'd never stop to examine. But every detail on this penny tells a story of scarcity, survival, and decades of collectors quietly fighting over coins that most people are accidentally spending. This is the kind of coin you might hold in your hand and not even realize it's a life-changing find. Step back into 1946. and you start to understand why this coin matters. World War II had just ended, and the United States was transitioning to peacetime. The economy was booming, production lines were shifting back to civilian goods, and currency was in high demand. The San Francisco Mint, denoted by that small S beneath the date, was producing coins under high-pressure conditions to meet national demand. And when a mint is producing at that pace, perfection becomes rare. Dies wear out, strike pressure fluctuates, and small variations appear that would be ignored by most people, but treasured by collectors decades later. This coin is made of about 95% copper, with tin and zinc making up the remainder. Pick it up and you feel the weight immediately, around 3.11 grams. Its diameter is 19 millimeters, thickness just over 1.5 millimeters. The edges are smooth, but the surface tells a story. That fine condition means it has survived decades of circulation while maintaining visible details. The natural where gives it authenticity, a kind of character that polished coins simply can't replicate. On the obverse, Abraham Lincoln's profile faces right, steady and composed. In God we trust arches above, liberty sits to the left, and the date 1946 rests to the right, with the S mint mark just beneath it. That tiny letter is not just a mark of origin. It's the key to identifying one of the rarest survivors from this era. Flip it over to the wheat reverse. 2 stocks frame, 1 cent, and United States of America, with E pluribus unum above. On a coin like this, even subtle details matter. The depth of the wheat lines, the clarity of the lettering, the distribution of wear across the surface. In fine condition, those details survive just enough to make collectors swoon. It's a perfect balance, evidence of circulation, but still with enough detail to verify originality. Now here's where most people destroy the value without realizing it. They see the aged copper and think it's dirty, tarnished, or flawed. They clean it, polish it, try to make it look better. That instinct is catastrophic. This coin's natural toning, that mix of reddish-brown shades with hints of darker patina, is part of its identity. Remove it, and you remove decades of history and authenticity. Once that surface is gone, the coin loses the very thing that makes it rare and desirable. Professional grading is absolutely essential here. Experts examine the coin for originality, verify the condition, and seal it in a protective holder. That certification transforms the coin from a simple collectible to a trusted asset in the eyes of serious collectors. Trust drives auctions. Trust drives competition. And in this market, competition drives prices that most people couldn't imagine for a single penny. Think about survival again. This coin has been around for over 75 years. It has passed through countless hands, registers, and pockets. Most pennies from the San Francisco Mint in 1946 did not survive in collectible condition. Many were lost, worn down, or damaged. That's why when a 1946 with S wheat penny appears today in fine condition, collectors notice instantly. They watch quietly at first, then move decisively, because they understand the rarity and significance. Auctions for coins like this are fascinating. They often start slow, almost casually. But once knowledgeable collectors spot the piece, bidding can become intense. People hold their cards close, waiting for the right moment. And once the coin sells, it often disappears into a private collection for years, shrinking supply while demand continues to grow. Here's a critical collector tip. Always check the date and mint mark first. Then examine the surface carefully. Is the toning natural? Are details preserved without harsh cleaning? Patience pays off. A coin like this may appear at a yard sale, in loose change, or forgotten in a drawer, and the patient collector is the one who benefits. And let's be clear, Do not spend this coin. Not for face value, not for convenience. Every day it passes into circulation is a day someone is losing a hidden fortune. This is not just copper and zinc. This is history, survival, and scarcity combined, a silent treasure hiding in plain sight. So if you have one, or even suspect you might, protect it. Keep it untouched. Get it professionally graded. And recognize the opportunity you hold. Because coins like this don't come back once they're gone. And just as a final thought for this video, we've covered coins that span decades, each with its own story, rarity, and hidden value. If you've made it this far, you already understand that some pennies are not pennies at all. They're life-changing assets hiding in plain sight. But don't get comfortable, because the next coin, the one we reveal in the next video, has a detail so subtle and so dangerous to miss that even experienced collectors have walked right past it, losing fortunes without ever realizing it. Stay sharp, check your change, and always remember, real treasure is often hiding where you least expect it. Next up, most people have no idea that one of the most dangerous coins to ignore is hiding in plain sight. The 1943 wheat penny with no mint mark, in fine condition. It doesn't scream valuable. It looks ordinary, like the pennies in your pocket or loose change in a drawer. But that's the exact reason it's so perilous to miss. This coin isn't just a piece of history, it's a silent fortune. One wrong spend, one casual toss, and decades of hidden wealth vanish before anyone even notices. 1943 wasn't just any year in America. The country was deep in World War II, a time when materials were rationed, industries were under intense pressure, and every ounce of copper was redirected to support the war effort. The Philadelphia Mint, coins with no mint mark, faced extreme demand while resources were restricted. And that pressure produced subtle variations, small inconsistencies, and die imperfections that most people overlook but collectors obsess over today. Pick up this coin and feel it. Unlike the usual 3.11-gram copper pennies, 1943 no-mint mark wheat pennies were mostly struck in zinc-coated steel, giving them a distinct weight and cold metallic feel. The diameter is still 19 millimeters, thickness about 1.5 millimeters, but the steel core changes everything. It's lighter than traditional copper pennies, yet solid, with a firmness that tells you instantly something is different. The surface has aged over decades, acquiring a slightly worn gray-brown patina, proof of survival through years of circulation. On the obverse, Abraham Lincoln's portrait faces right, calm, and composed despite the turbulent era. Above him, "In God We Trust" stretches across the top. Liberty rests to the left, and the date 1943 sits on the right. With no mint mark, you know immediately this was minted in Philadelphia, a key detail collectors fixate on. That missing letter may seem small, but it separates common war pennies from those that are scarce in fine condition. Flip it over to the wheat reverse. The two iconic stocks frame 1 cent and United States of America, with E pluribus unum clearly above. At first glance, it looks ordinary, but collectors examine the depth of the wheat lines, the sharpness of the lettering, and the way where it's distributed across the coin. In fine condition, these details survive just enough to create extreme desirability, balancing historical circulation with preservable characteristics. And here's where most people make a fatal mistake: cleaning. The natural steel surface develops subtle toning over decades, gray, slightly darkened areas, hints of original coating still present. That is not damage. That is history. Touch it with anything abrasive, polish it, or attempt to restore it, and the coin's value plummets instantly. Originality is everything. Once it's gone forever. Professional grading is crucial. Experts confirm the steel core hasn't been altered, the surface hasn't been cleaned, and the coin's condition is authentic. Sealing it in a protective holder builds trust in the market, and trust drives serious bidding. Collectors don't gamble on uncertainty. They pay for verified authenticity. Think about how rare survival really is. In 1943, steel pennies were intended for daily circulation. They were dropped, spent, and handled under wartime conditions. Most were damaged, lost, or corroded. Very few remain in fine condition with clear details. That makes this coin extraordinarily scarce. And scarcity is what collectors hunt. Auctions for coins like this are intense. At first glance, bidding may seem calm. But the moment informed collectors bought the coin, activity spikes. Strategic bids, patient waiting, and sudden bursts of competition mark the pursuit. Once a fine-condition 1943 no-mint mark wheat penny lands in a private collection, it often disappears for years, shrinking supply while interest continues to rise. Auctions for coins like this are fascinating. Initially, bidding might appear calm. But the moment collectors spot a Blackish 1957D in fine condition, things shift. Strategic bids rise quietly, competition intensifies, and before long, the coin disappears into a private collection, often for years. Supply shrinks, demand grows, and suddenly coins that once felt ordinary are now extraordinarily valuable. Here's a crucial tip. Always examine the date first, then the mint mark, and finally, the surface. Look for natural toning, subtle wear, and preserved details. Patience pays off. Rare coins like this often appear unexpectedly in old coin jars, estate sales, or forgotten drawers, and the patient collector reaps the reward. And the most important rule of all, do not spend this coin. Despite its ordinary appearance and blackish surface, this penny is more than metal. It is history, survival, and a hidden treasure all in one. Every day, it slips unnoticed into circulation. Decades of rarity and potential fortune vanish without anyone realizing it. This coin is a piece of history, but also a symbol of opportunity. Handled carefully, graded professionally, and preserved naturally, it becomes a silent fortune. One that people have overlooked for decades, and yet still fights for attention among collectors who know its true value. So check your coins carefully. Look for 1957, the D mint mark, blackish patina, preserved details. If it matches, protect it. Don't clean it, and never spend it. And stay tuned, because the next coin we reveal is even more shocking. It carries a subtle feature so easily missed, yet so powerful that collectors have passed it by for years. Once discovered, it's a coin that can change everything, and people who ignore it risk losing far more than just a penny. Next up, most people look at an old rusty penny and toss it aside without a second thought. They see corrosion, wear, a dull surface, and assume it's worthless. But that's exactly why this coin is one of the most dangerous to ignore. The 1943 wheat penny with no mint mark in old, rusty circulated condition hides a story of survival, scarcity, and hidden fortune. To the casual eye, it's just a battered piece of metal. To a collector, it's a rare treasure that slipped through the cracks for decades. Let's go back to 1943. America was deep in World War II, and copper was a precious commodity diverted to war production. The Philadelphia Mint, which produced pennies without mint marks, responded by striking coins primarily in steel coated with zinc rather than the traditional copper. That shift alone makes this coin extraordinary. Steel pennies were meant to circulate freely, but over time, exposure to moisture, handling, and storage created oxidation, rust, on surfaces that survived decades. Most coins didn't make it this far intact. Pick out this penny carefully. It weighs roughly 2.7 grams, slightly lighter than copper pennies, with a diameter of 19 millimeters and a thickness just over 1.5 millimeters. The edges are smooth, but the surface is rough, pitted, and blackened from rust. Most people would see that and discard it. But collectors study every imperfection. They understand that natural corrosion tells a story, a history of survival under extreme conditions, and that's what makes this coin special. The obverse shows Lincoln's portrait, worn but recognizable, facing right. In God we trust, arches above. Liberty remains visible on the left, and the date 1943 sits on the right. No mint mark confirms its Philadelphia origin. That absence may seem minor, but for collectors, it distinguishes this coin from other wartime variations and adds to its rarity. The imperfections and oxidation do not reduce its historical importance. In fact, they prove its authenticity and survival. Turn it over to the wheat reverse. Two stocks frame O&E cent and United States OF America with E pluribus unum above. Despite rust and circulation wear, enough detail remains for collectors to identify it confidently. It's not about perfection, it's about survival. Very few 1943 no-mint mark steel pennies have persisted through decades of rough handling, exposure, and loss, while still maintaining enough clarity to be considered collectible. And here's where most people destroy potential value. They see rust and instinctively try to clean it. They scrub, polish, or use chemicals. That impulse is catastrophic. The natural steel surface, even with corrosion, is proof of authenticity. Removing rust improperly can damage the coin permanently, erasing the very characteristics collectors prize. Professional grading is essential here. Experts examine the metal composition, the strike, and the surface, then seal it in a protective holder. That certification confirms authenticity and allows the coin to compete in serious auctions. Think about the survival story. This coin has endured over 80 years of circulation, handling, exposure to the elements, and countless hands. Most steel pennies from 1943 were lost, melted, or damaged beyond recognition. That makes the ones that remain, even rusty, extraordinarily rare. Collectors understand that rarity, combined with authenticity and historical significance, transforms a corroded steel penny into a highly desirable collectible. Auctions for coins like this are intense. At first, a rusty 1943 may seem like a bargain to the uninitiated. But serious collectors recognize the story behind the rust, the survival against overwhelming odds, and the Denver or Philadelphia origin. Bidding can escalate quickly. Once a coin like this enters a collection, it often disappears for decades. Supply shrinks while demand continues to grow, making these survivors even more coveted over time. Here's a subtle collector tip. Study the steel coating and rust patterns carefully. Avoid overcleaning, maintain the natural corrosion, and verify authenticity through professional grading. Patience is critical. Rare coins like this often appear unexpectedly in jars, boxes, estate sales, and the patient collector can secure a hidden fortune without anyone realizing it. And most importantly, do not spend this coin. Its worn, rusty appearance may deceive you, but it is a survivor of wartime America. It is a piece of history that has quietly endured decades of circulation, corrosion, and neglect. Every day one of these coins is spent, decades of rarity and potential fortune vanish. This is more than steel and zinc. This is survival, scarcity, and a story of wartime America preserved in your hand. Handled carefully, graded professionally, and protected, it becomes a treasure, a silent fortune that many people have overlooked and still do. Check your pennies. Look for 1943, No mint mark, worn steel with natural patina. Study the surface, appreciate the imperfections, and protect it. Don't clean it, don't spend it, and never underestimate its hidden value. And if you think this coin is extraordinary, wait until you see the next one. The upcoming coin has a detail so subtle, so rare, that even seasoned collectors have missed it for years, and once it's recognized, it can turn ordinary change into a life-changing treasure. This is exactly the kind of coin that keeps people obsessing, searching, and realizing that hidden wealth has been right under their noses all along. Most people glance at pennies without a second thought, but every so often, a coin hides a story and a fortune in plain sight. The 1947 wheat penny with the S mint mark in fine condition is one of those coins. It looks ordinary at first glance, worn and familiar, but to collectors, it's a rare survivor from a pivotal moment in U.S. history. People are spending these every day without realizing they're letting decades of hidden wealth slip away. Let's step into 1947. America was transitioning from the post-war boom into a new era of growth and optimism. The San Francisco Mint, responsible for the S mint mark pennies, was operating under increasing demand. Millions of coins were struck, but production was not perfect. Dies wore unevenly, strike depth fluctuated, and small inconsistencies appeared. Most circulated pennies lost detail over time, but the ones that survived in fine condition today are the rare exceptions, quietly becoming highly sought-after treasures. Pick up this coin and feel it. It's made of approximately 95% copper with tin and zinc, weighing around 3.11 grams, 19 millimeters in diameter, and roughly 1.5 millimeters thick. There's a tactile reassurance in its weight, a solid feel that contrasts sharply with modern coins. The edges are smooth, but the surface carries gentle where that's just enough to prove circulation without losing critical detail, a key factor collectors obsess over. On the obverse, Abraham Lincoln's profile faces right. "In God We Trust" stretches across the top. Liberty remains visible to the left, and the date, 1947, sits clearly on the right with the tiny S mint mark just beneath it. That small letter might seem insignificant, but it identifies the coin as a product of the San Francisco Mint, and that origin makes this coin far more desirable in collector circles. Flip it over, and the wheat reverse appears, 2 stocks framing 1 cent, and United States of America, with E pluribus unum above. In fine condition, enough detail remains to make the coin collectible. The wheat lines are still visible, the lettering is crisp, and the overall surface tells a story of survival. It's that balance of wear and detail that transforms an ordinary penny into a rare treasure. Here's the crucial part: do not clean this coin. Its original surface and natural toning are irreplaceable. Attempting to polish or scrub it will destroy decades of authenticity and dramatically reduce collector interest. Professional grading is essential to ensure the coin's originality, certify its condition, and protect it for future auctions. Graded coins carry credibility and attract serious collectors who understand the rarity and historical significance of the 1947 penny. Consider how rare survival really is. This coin has passed through countless hands, wallets, registers, and pockets for over 75 years. Many 1947 pennies from San Francisco were lost, damaged, or melted down. That makes the ones that have survived in fine condition extraordinarily rare, and the scarcity drives collectors' obsessive attention. Once one appears in a market, bidding can escalate quickly, and the coin often disappears into private collections, shrinking supply while demand continues to grow. Collector tip: always check the date first, then the mint mark, and finally the surface. Examine wear patterns, toning, and preserve details. Patience pays. Rare coins like this often appear unexpectedly in coin jars, estate sales, or forgotten collections. Being vigilant and informed can turn a casual discovery into a serious asset. And remember, do not spend this coin. Its ordinary appearance is deceptive, and handing it off could mean losing a hidden fortune. This is more than copper. It's history, survival, and scarcity in your hand, a silent treasure waiting for recognition. This coin represents a moment in time, preserved through decades, with a story of production, survival, and scarcity that collectors prize. Handle it carefully, keep it graded, and appreciate its rarity. And if you think this is remarkable, stay tuned. The next coin has a detail so subtle and so dangerous to miss that even experienced collectors have walked right past it. The hidden wealth it represents is staggering, and people continue to lose fortunes without realizing it. This is exactly why checking your coins could change everything. Next up, most people see a worn penny and think it's just another coin. But every so often, a coin hides decades of history and fortune in plain sight. The 1945 wheat penny with no mint mark in very fine condition is exactly that kind of treasure. At first glance, it looks ordinary, a coin you might pass over without thinking. But for collectors, this is a rare survivor from a pivotal year, a coin that has silently endured decades and slipped through countless pockets, yet still holds incredible value and historical significance. Step back to 1945. The war in Europe had just ended, and the Pacific conflict was winding down. America was transitioning from wartime economy to peacetime recovery. The Philadelphia Mint, responsible for no mint mark pennies, was under pressure to meet circulating demand while production shifted back to normal metals. Dies wore quickly, strikes varied, and subtle inconsistencies appeared. Most coins from this year were used heavily and lost their original detail, but a select few survived in very fine condition, and those survivors are the ones collectors obsessively search for. Hold this coin in your hand and feel its presence. Made of about 95% copper, with tin and zinc, it weighs roughly 3.11 grams, has a diameter of 19 millimeters, and a thickness just over 1.5 millimeters. Its edges are smooth, but the surface retains gentle where that proves it's circulated while keeping enough detail to qualify as very fine. That balance, evidence of survival without excessive wear, is exactly what makes this coin a collector's dream. The obverse features Lincoln's profile facing right. "In God We Trust" stretches across the top. "Liberty" sits on the left, and the date 1945 appears on the right. The absence of a mint mark confirms it was produced in Philadelphia. That tiny detail may seem insignificant, but it is critical. Collectors know that Philadelphia coins from this era are rarer in high-quality condition than many of their contemporaries, and that scarcity makes this coin particularly desirable. Flip it over to the wheat reverse, and you see two stocks framing 1 cent and United States of America with E pluribus unum above. The fine condition preserves enough of the wheat detail to demonstrate authenticity, while circulation tells the story of decades in pocket change. This combination of clarity and wear is what collectors pay attention to. It's not about perfection, it's about survival and provenance. Now, here's the critical point. Never clean this coin. The natural surface, gentle toning, and original wear are proof of authenticity. Attempts to polish or scrub it may destroy decades of history and drastically reduce collector interest. Professional grading is essential for coins like this. Experts evaluate the surface, condition, and metal composition, then seal it in a protective holder. That certification gives collectors confidence and drives serious interest at auction. Consider the rarity. This coin has survived over 75 years of circulation, countless pockets, and countless hands. Most 1945 no mint mark pennies were spent, damaged, or lost entirely. That makes the ones that survived in very fine condition extraordinarily scarce. Collectors immediately recognize this, and when one appears in the market, bidding escalates quickly. Many coins disappear into private collections for years, shrinking supply while demand grows. Collector tip: examine the date, confirm there's no mint mark, and inspect the surface for natural wear and toning. Don't rush. Patience is critical. Rare coins often appear unexpectedly in jars, boxes, or forgotten collections, and a vigilant collector can turn a casual discovery into a hidden fortune. And most importantly, do not spend this coin. Its ordinary appearance may fool you, but it is a survivor of one of the most important years in U.S. history. It carries scarcity, authenticity, and a hidden story that could represent decades of lost opportunity if discarded. This coin is more than copper. It is history, survival, and a piece of hidden wealth that has endured decades to land in your hand. Protected, graded, and preserved naturally, it becomes a treasure collectors obsess over and a silent fortune that few recognize. And if you think this is remarkable, stay alert. The next coin we reveal is even more rare and dangerous to ignore. Its subtle feature is so easily overlooked that many experienced collectors have walked right past it for years, and once discovered, it can turn ordinary change into a life-changing treasure. This is exactly why checking your coins carefully could make all the difference. Next up, most people see a worn, blackish penny and think it's worthless, just another piece of change. But the 1940 wheat penny with no mint mark in blackish circulated condition tells a very different story. To the casual eye, it's ordinary, darkened from decades of handling. To collectors, it's a rare survivor, a coin that has endured over 80 years, quietly hiding history, scarcity, and hidden wealth. People are still spending these every day without realizing the fortunes slipping through their fingers. Step back to 1940. America was emerging from the Great Depression, and the nation's economy was slowly stabilizing. The Philadelphia Mint, responsible for no mint mark pennies, faced the challenge of producing coins in high volume while maintaining consistency. Dies wore down quickly, strikes varied, and minor inconsistencies became inevitable. Most pennies from this year circulated heavily and lost significant detail, but the ones that survived in blackish condition have become prized collectibles precisely because they endured against the odds. Pick up this coin and feel its presence. Composed of approximately 95% copper with tin and zinc, it weighs roughly 3.11 grams, has a diameter of 19 millimeters, and a thickness of just over 1.5 millimeters. The edges are smooth, but the blackish surface, darkened over decades, gives it a unique character. That natural patina is a signature of authenticity and survival, a visual proof that it has weathered countless pockets, registers, and hands without being altered. On the obverse, Abraham Lincoln's profile faces right. "In God We Trust" arches across the top. Liberty is on the left, and the date 1940 sits on the right, with no mint mark below. That absence immediately identifies it as a Philadelphia coin, which is significant to collectors. Small details in the portrait, lettering, and date distinguish a coin in fine circulated condition from the thousands of ordinary pennies that never survived this long. Collectors recognize the no mint mark variety as scarce, and the very fine condition combined with the reddish layer makes it highly desirable. Flip the coin over to the wheat reverse. Two stocks frame O&E cent and United States OF America with E pluribus unum above. Even in fine condition, enough detail remains in the wheat lines and lettering to satisfy serious collectors. That balance between wear and preservation is precisely what elevates this coin from ordinary change to a sought-after collectible. And here's the critical warning: Do not clean this coin. Its natural reddish layer, subtle toning, and original surface are irreplaceable. Any attempt to polish, scrub, or chemically clean it will destroy decades of authenticity and dramatically reduce collector interest. Professional grading is essential. Experts verify the coin's originality, confirm the condition, and seal it in a protective holder. That certification adds trust and allows it to compete in serious auctions, attracting collectors willing to pay serious money. Think about its survival. This 1942 penny has been through over 80 years of circulation, countless pockets, and daily transactions. Most pennies from this year were lost, melted, or damaged. The few that remain in fine condition, especially with a natural reddish layer, are extraordinarily rare. Collectors immediately notice the difference between a standard worn penny and a preserved, authentic 1942 no-mint mark in fine condition. Auctions for coins like this are fascinating. Initially, a reddish 1942 may seem unremarkable, but the moment knowledgeable collectors recognize the survival and toning, bidding intensifies. The coin often disappears into private collections, shrinking supply while interest and demand continue to rise. This is why patience and vigilance are critical for anyone searching for hidden treasure in everyday change. Next up, most people see a worn, blackish penny and think it's worthless, just another piece of change. But the 1940 wheat penny with no mint mark in blackish circulated condition tells a very different story. To the casual eye, it's ordinary, darkened from decades of handling. To collectors, it's a rare survivor, a coin that has endured over 80 years, quietly hiding history, scarcity, and hidden wealth. People are still spending these every day without realizing the fortunes slipping through their fingers. Step back to 1940. America was emerging from the Great Depression, and the nation's economy was slowly stabilizing. The Philadelphia Mint, responsible for no-mint mark pennies, faced the challenge of producing coins in high volume while maintaining consistency. Dies wore down quickly, strikes varied, and minor inconsistencies became inevitable. Most pennies from this year circulated heavily and lost significant detail, but the ones that survived in blackish condition have become prized collectibles precisely because they endured against the odds. Pick up this coin and feel its presence. Composed of approximately 95% copper with tin and zinc, it weighs roughly 3.11 grams, has a diameter of 19 millimeters, and a thickness of just over 1.5 millimeters. The edges are smooth, but the blackish surface, darkened over decades, gives it a unique character. That natural patina is a signature of authenticity and survival, a visual proof that it has weathered countless pockets, registers, and hands without being altered. On the obverse, Abraham Lincoln's profile faces right. "In God We Trust" arches across the top. Liberty is on the left, and the date 1940 sits on the right, with no mint mark below. That absence immediately identifies it as a Philadelphia coin, which is significant to collectors. Small details in the portrait, lettering, and date distinguish a coin in fine circulated condition from the thousands of ordinary pennies that never survived this long. Flip it over to the wheat reverse. 2 stocks frame, 1 cent, and United States of America, with E pluribus unum above. Even in blackish circulated condition, enough detail remains for collectors to verify authenticity. The wheat lines are visible, the lettering remains legible, and the surface shows natural wear rather than aggressive cleaning or damage. That balance between circulation and preservation is exactly what transforms a humble penny into a rare treasure. Here's the crucial warning: do not clean this coin. That blackish surface may look dirty or corroded to an untrained eye, but it is proof of originality. Scrubbing, polishing, or using chemicals can irreversibly damage the coin, destroying the very traits collectors prize. Professional grading is critical. Experts examine the coin's metal composition, strike quality, and surface condition, then seal it in a protective holder. That certificate adds credibility, allowing the coin to command serious attention in the auction world. Think about survival. This 1940 penny has endured more than 8 decades of circulation, environmental exposure, and everyday handling. Most coins from that year were lost, worn smooth, or discarded. The few that remain in blackish condition are exceedingly rare, and collectors immediately recognize their significance. When one appears on the market, bidding can become aggressive, and the coin often disappears into private collections, reducing supply while interest continues to grow. Collector tip: first, check the date, then the mint mark, and finally, the surface. Examine toning, wear patterns, and preserve detail. Patience is key. Rare coins often appear unexpectedly in jars, old collections, or forgotten drawers, and the informed collector can turn casual discovery into a life-changing find. Most importantly, do not spend this coin. Its dark, worn appearance may deceive you, but it is a survivor of a pivotal period in U.S. history. It carries scarcity, authenticity, and hidden wealth that could vanish if discarded or circulated. This coin is more than copper. It's a story of survival, scarcity, and decades of history preserved in your hand. Protected naturally and professionally graded, it becomes a treasure collectors obsess over, a silent fortune many people overlook every day. And if you think this is extraordinary, pay close attention. The next coin is even more shocking, with subtle details that most collectors miss entirely. Once discovered, it can transform ordinary change into a life-changing treasure, and people who overlook it risk losing wealth they've held in their pockets for decades. This is exactly why checking your coins carefully could make all the difference. Next up, most people think pennies from the 1950s are just ordinary change. But every so often, one hides decades of history and fortune right under your nose. The 1957 wheat penny with no mint mark in fine condition is one of those rare treasures. It doesn't scream value. In fact, it looks completely ordinary. But that's exactly what makes it dangerous to ignore. This coin survived circulation, handling, and everyday wear, quietly preserving a story and a hidden fortune that most people are still accidentally spending today. Step back to 1957. America was in the midst of post-war prosperity. Industrial production had normalized, coins were being minted in massive numbers, and yet subtle variations emerged at the Philadelphia Mint. Dies wore unevenly, strike depth varied slightly, and small inconsistencies appeared that would be unnoticed by casual eyes, but are prized by collectors decades later. That's why surviving coins in fine condition are so coveted. They are rare examples of history that slipped through the cracks. Pick it up and feel its presence. Composed of about 95% copper with tin and zinc, it weighs roughly 3.11 grams, has a diameter of 19 millimeters, and a thickness just over 1.5 millimeters. The edges are smooth, and the surface shows gentle wear, just enough to prove circulation while keeping key details intact. That combination of age, wear, and preserved characteristics makes this penny a quiet survivor, a coin that collectors recognize immediately as a hidden treasure. On the obverse, Abraham Lincoln's profile faces right, calm, and enduring. In God We Trust stretches across the top, liberty rests on the left, and the date 1957 appears on the right, with no mint mark below to confirm Philadelphia origin. That tiny absence is critical. It distinguishes this coin from its Denver and San Francisco counterparts and adds a subtle layer of rarity that collectors obsess over. Flip it over, and the iconic wheat reverse appears. 2 stocks frame, 1 cent, and United States of America, with E pluribus unum above. In fine condition, enough detail remains to show the wheat lines, crisp lettering, and authentic surface. Collectors prize that combination, evidence of circulation that proves survival, but still enough detail to verify authenticity. It's a delicate balance that few coins manage to maintain over decades. Now, here's the crucial warning. Do not clean this coin. That original surface, natural toning, and preserved detail are irreplaceable. Polishing, scrubbing, or chemical cleaning will instantly destroy the very traits that give this coin value. Professional grading is essential. Experts examine the surface, confirm originality, and seal it in a protective holder, giving collectors confidence and enabling serious bidding in the market. Consider the rarity. This penny has survived more than 65 years of circulation, countless pockets, and daily transactions. Most 1957 no-mint mark pennies have been lost, damaged, or discarded. The few that remain in fine condition are extraordinarily rare. When one appears, collectors recognize it immediately, and auctions can become intense, with the coin often disappearing into private collections for years. Collector tip: always check the date first, then the mint mark, and finally, the surface. Look for subtle wear, original toning, and preserved detail. Patience is crucial. Rare coins often appear unexpectedly in jars, boxes, or forgotten collections. The careful observer can turn a simple discovery into a hidden fortune. And most importantly, do not spend this coin. Its ordinary appearance is deceptive. This is more than copper. It is history, survival, and scarcity preserved in your hand. Every day it goes unnoticed or into circulation. Hidden wealth disappears, lost to time and ignorance. Most people don't even notice pennies from 1947, and that's exactly why the 1947 wheat penny with no mint mark in very fine condition is so dangerous to overlook. At first glance, it looks ordinary, worn from decades in circulation. But for collectors, this coin is a rare survivor, a piece of history that quietly endured over 75 years, holding hidden value that most people are still accidentally spending. Every day, coins like this slip through wallets, drawers, and cash registers, carrying potential wealth that goes unnoticed. Step into 1947. America was deep in the post-war era, industries were booming, and coin production was in full swing. The Philadelphia Mint, producing no-mint mark pennies, operated under high demand, striking millions of coins. Die wear, slight variations in strike depth, and subtle production inconsistencies made some coins naturally rarer than others. Most pennies wore down quickly, but the ones that survived in very fine condition today are extraordinary, quiet treasures that collectors hunt obsessively. Feel this coin in your hand. It's made of approximately 95% copper with tin and zinc, weighing around 3.11 grams, with a 19 millimeter diameter and a thickness just over 1.5 millimeters. The edges are smooth and the surface shows moderate wear, just enough to prove circulation, yet preserving critical detail. That balance between age, wear, and integrity is what transforms a humble penny into a hidden collectible. On the obverse, Abraham Lincoln's profile faces right, with "In God We Trust" stretching across the top. Liberty is visible on the left, and the date 1947 sits on the right, with no mint mark below. That absence immediately identifies it as a Philadelphia coin, and collectors know that pennies from this mint surviving in very fine condition are significantly rarer than their more common counterparts. Subtle features, like the sharpness of Lincoln's jawline and the clarity of the date, are what separate a valuable coin from ordinary change. Flip the coin over to the wheat reverse. Two stocks frame, 1 cent, and United States of America, with E pluribus unum above. In very fine condition, The wheat lines and lettering remain visible, proof that the coin survived decades of circulation without losing its character. This mix of wear and preservation is exactly what collectors prize. It tells a story of survival while maintaining the details that prove authenticity. Here's a critical warning. Do not clean this coin. The natural surface, toning, and gentle wear are irreplaceable. Polishing or scrubbing will destroy decades of history and dramatically reduce collector interest. Professional grading is essential. Experts examine the surface, confirm authenticity, and seal it in a protective holder. That certification gives collectors confidence and enables serious auction bidding. Consider the rarity. Most 1947 no-mint mark pennies were heavily circulated and lost to time. The ones that survived in very fine condition are few and highly coveted. Auctions for coins like this are competitive. Collectors recognize their scarcity immediately. Once one enters a collection, it often disappears for years, shrinking supply while interest and demand grow steadily. Collector tip: always check the date first, then the mint mark, and finally, the surface. Look for signs of authentic wear, preserved detail, and original toning. Patience is critical. Rare coins often appear unexpectedly in coin jars, old collections, or forgotten drawers. Vigilance can turn an ordinary discovery into a hidden fortune. And most importantly, do not spend this coin. Its unassuming appearance may deceive you, but it is a survivor of one of the most important years in U.S. coinage history. It carries scarcity, authenticity, and decades of hidden wealth that could vanish if discarded. This coin is more than copper. It is survival, history, and quiet fortune preserved in your hand. Handle it carefully, keep it graded, and protect it. Collectors obsess over coins like this, and it is a silent treasure that few recognize. And if you think this is impressive, stay tuned. The next coin on our list has subtle features so rare and easily missed that even seasoned collectors have walked right past it for decades. Once discovered, it could completely change someone's collection, and the hidden fortune it represents is life-changing. This is exactly why checking your coins carefully could turn everyday change into something extraordinary. Next up, most people glance at a rusty, worn penny and see nothing more than forgotten change. But the 1938 wheat penny with no mint mark in rusty circulated condition is hiding a story and a fortune that few realize. At first glance, it looks battered and ordinary, darkened by decades of circulation. Yet for collectors, this coin is a rare survivor, a piece of U.S. history that has endured over 80 years, carrying hidden value that most people are still accidentally spending every day. Step back to 1938. America was slowly recovering from the Great Depression, industries were ramping up, and coin production was back in full swing. The Philadelphia Mint, responsible for pennies without mint marks, faced intense pressure to meet demand. Dies wore unevenly, strike depth varied, and minor imperfections appeared, tiny details that most people would never notice, but that collectors obsess over today. Most coins from this year were heavily circulated, lost, or damaged, making surviving examples in any condition increasingly rare. Pick up this coin and feel its weight. Made primarily of 95% copper with tin and zinc, it weighs approximately 3.11 grams, has a diameter of 19 millimeters, and a thickness of about 1.5 millimeters. The edges are smooth, but the rusty, darkened surface tells the story of decades in circulation. That corrosion, though it may seem like damage, is actually proof of authenticity. Collectors prize the natural patina, even in circulated coins, because it confirms survival and originality, something polished or artificially cleaned coins can never replicate. On the obverse, Abraham Lincoln's profile faces right, calm and enduring through decades of wear. In God We Trust stretches across the top, Liberty is visible on the left, and the date 1938 appears on the right with no mint mark below, confirming Philadelphia origin. That tiny detail may seem trivial, but it separates this coin from more common varieties and immediately signals rarity to collectors. Subtle features, like the contour of Lincoln's cheek, jawline, and the clarity of the date, are what make this coin noteworthy in the market today. Flip it over to the wheat reverse. Two stocks frame, 1 cent, and United States of America, with E pluribus unum above. Even with circulation and rust, enough detail remains for collectors to confirm authenticity. The wheat lines are distinguishable, lettering is legible, and the surface shows natural wear rather than aggressive cleaning. This combination of age, wear, and preserved detail is exactly what elevates a rusty penny into a rare collectible. Here's the most important warning: do not attempt to clean this coin. The natural surface, subtle toning, and even the rusty patches are irreplaceable. Any polishing, scrubbing, or chemical treatment can irreversibly destroy the very characteristics collectors prize. Professional grading is essential. Experts verify metal composition, condition, and authenticity, then seal the coin in a protective holder. This creates trust in the auction market and ensures it commands serious attention. Consider its survival. This 1938 penny has endured over 8 decades of circulation, countless pockets, and the wear of everyday transactions. Most 1938 no-mint mark pennies were lost, melted, or damaged beyond recognition. The few that remain, even in rusty condition, are extraordinarily rare. Collectors immediately recognize these survivors and value them for their scarcity, history, and authenticity. Auctions for coins like this are fascinating. At first glance, a rusty 1938 penny may seem unremarkable, but seasoned collectors know its story. Once spotted, bidding intensifies quickly. Many coins disappear into private collections for years, shrinking supply while interest continues to rise. The rarity combined with verified authenticity is what makes this coin a quiet but serious treasure. Collector tip: always check the date, confirm the mint mark, and examine the surface carefully. Look for natural corrosion, signs of wear, and remaining detail. Patience is crucial. Rare coins often appear unexpectedly in old jars, boxes, or estate collections. The informed collector can transform a seemingly ordinary find into a hidden fortune. Most importantly, do not spend this coin. Its rusty, darkened surface may deceive you, but it is a survivor of a pivotal era in American coinage. It carries scarcity, authenticity, and decades of hidden value that could vanish if discarded. This coin is more than copper and corrosion. It is history, survival, and a hidden treasure in your hand. Handled carefully and professionally graded, it becomes a collectible that serious collectors obsess over, a silent fortune that most people overlook every day. And if you think this is extraordinary, stay tuned. The next coin on our list is even rarer, with subtle features that are easy to miss but incredibly valuable. Once discovered, it could transform ordinary change into a life-changing treasure, and people who ignore it risk losing hidden wealth they've been holding for decades. This is exactly why checking your coins carefully could change everything. Next up, most people see a 1957 penny and toss it aside without a second thought. But the 1957 wheat penny with a D mint mark in fine condition is quietly hiding a story, decades of history, and a hidden fortune. At first glance, it seems ordinary, worn by circulation. But to collectors, this coin is a rare survivor from the Denver Mint, a coin that has quietly endured over 65 years, holding value that most people are still accidentally spending every day. Step into 1957. America was enjoying post-war growth, with industry booming and coin production back in full swing. The Denver Mint, marked by the tiny D below the date, struck millions of pennies that year. Despite large numbers, subtle variations in die wear and strike pressure made some coins rarer than others. Most pennies circulated heavily, losing detail, but the ones that survived in fine condition, like this one, became quiet treasures, highly sought after by collectors. Feel this penny in your hand. Made primarily of 95% copper with tin and zinc, it weighs roughly 3.11 grams, has a 19mm diameter, and a thickness just over 1.5 millimeters. The edges are smooth and the surface shows gentle wear, enough to prove circulation, but preserving essential detail. That tactile reassurance, the perfect balance of survival and age, is exactly what collectors obsess over. The obverse shows Lincoln's profile facing right, calm and familiar. "In God We Trust" stretches across the top. Liberty remains visible to the left, and the date 1957 sits on the right with a D mint mark just beneath it, confirming its Denver origin. That tiny letter may seem minor, but it immediately distinguishes this coin from Philadelphia and San Francisco pennies. Collectors know that Denver pennies in fine condition are scarcer and prize them for both rarity and authenticity. Flip the coin over to the wheat reverse. Two stocks frame, 1 cent, and United States of America, with E pluribus unum above. In fine condition, enough detail remains in the wheat lines and lettering to verify authenticity, while gentle wear tells the story of decades in circulation. It's that delicate balance, evidence of use without destroying critical detail, that transforms this humble penny into a hidden treasure. Here's the critical warning: do not clean this coin. Its natural toning and gently worn surface are irreplaceable. Polishing, scrubbing, or chemical cleaning will destroy decades of authenticity and drastically reduce collector interest. Professional grading is essential. Experts verify the coin's originality, inspect strike quality, and seal it in a protective holder. That certification allows collectors to confidently compete in auctions and preserves the coin's hidden value. Consider the survival story. This 1957 D penny has endured decades of circulation, countless pockets, and everyday handling. Most coins from this year were lost, damaged, or heavily worn. The few that survived in fine condition are scarce, and collectors immediately recognize their rarity. When one appears on the market, bidding can escalate quickly, and the coin often disappears into private collections for years, shrinking supply while demand grows. Collector tip: check the date first, confirm the mint mark, then examine the surface. Look for gentle wear, original toning, and preserved details. Patience is key. Rare coins often appear in jars, boxes, or forgotten collections. A vigilant collector can turn a casual discovery into a life-changing treasure. And most importantly, do not spend this coin. Its unassuming appearance can deceive you, but it is a survivor of mid-20th century American coinage. It carries scarcity, authenticity, and decades of hidden value that could vanish if discarded. This coin is more than copper. It is history, survival, and a quiet fortune preserved in your hand. Handle it carefully, keep it graded, and protect it. Collectors obsess over pennies like this, and it's a silent treasure that many people overlook every day. As we wrap up this segment, remember, every coin in circulation could hold a story and a fortune. Hidden wealth is often disguised as ordinary change. And the next coin we reveal is even rarer, with subtle details that most collectors miss entirely. Once discovered, it can transform ordinary pennies into life-changing treasures. This is exactly why checking your coins carefully could turn everyday change into something extraordinary. Next up, most people glance at a 1957 penny and toss it aside without a second thought, completely unaware that some pennies are quietly hiding life-changing value. The 1957 wheat penny with D mint mark in very fine condition is one of those coins. At first glance, it looks ordinary, worn yet familiar, a piece of change that could easily slip unnoticed into circulation. But for collectors, this coin is a rare survivor, a hidden treasure from the Denver Mint that has quietly endured decades, carrying history, scarcity, and a silent fortune that people are still accidentally losing every day. Step back to 1957. America was in the midst of post-war prosperity, industries were booming, and coin production was at high volume. The Denver Mint struck millions of pennies, but subtle variations emerged. Slight die wear, production pressure, and minor inconsistencies made certain coins, like this one in very fine condition, far rarer than the everyday circulated pennies most people handle. That rarity is what transforms a common-looking penny into a collector's obsession. Hold the coin and feel its presence. It's composed of approximately 95% copper, with tin and zinc, weighing roughly 3.11 grams. Its diameter measures 19 millimeters, with a thickness just over 1.5 millimeters. The edges are smooth, while the surface shows gentle wear consistent with decades of circulation. That combination, a solid feel, natural patina, and preserved detail, is exactly what collectors look for, quietly signaling both authenticity and scarcity. The obverse displays Lincoln's profile facing right. "In God We Trust" arches along the top, "Liberty" sits on the left, and the date 1957 is accompanied by the small D mint mark below, confirming Denver origin. That tiny mark may seem insignificant, but it instantly elevates the coin's collectability. Coins from the Denver Mint surviving in very fine condition are significantly rarer than those from Philadelphia or San Francisco, making them highly desirable in the collector market. Flip to the wheat reverse. 2 wheat stocks frame 1 cent, and United States of America, with E pluribus unum above. Even with gentle wear, the lines and lettering remain distinct, enough detail to satisfy collectors and prove authenticity. The subtle balance between circulated wear and preserved features is what makes this penny a rare survival and a potential life-changing find. Here's the most critical warning: do not clean this coin. Its original surface, toning, and very fine detail are irreplaceable. Polishing, scrubbing, or chemical cleaning destroys decades of authenticity and can permanently lower collector value. Professional grading is essential. Experts examine the strike, metal composition, and surface, then seal it in a protective holder, adding credibility and allowing serious collectors to bid with confidence. Think about survival. This 1957D penny has endured over 65 years of circulation, countless pockets, and daily transactions. Most coins from that year were worn down, lost, or discarded. The few that survived in very fine condition are extraordinarily rare, and collectors recognize them immediately. Once one enters the market, bidding can escalate quickly, and the coin often disappears into private collections, shrinking supply while demand steadily grows. Collector tip: check the date first, then the mint mark, and finally inspect the surface. Look for preserved detail, natural toning, and subtle signs of circulation. Patience is key. Rare coins often appear unexpectedly in jars, boxes, or estate collections. The careful, informed collector can turn an ordinary discovery into hidden wealth. And most importantly, do not spend this coin. Its unassuming appearance may fool you, but it is a survivor of mid-20th century American coinage. It carries scarcity, authenticity, and decades of hidden wealth that could vanish if discarded. This is more than copper. It is history, survival, and a quiet fortune preserved in your hand. As we conclude this video, remember, each coin we've uncovered today is a hidden treasure. From Blackish, rusty, and steel pennies to rare Reddish and very fine survivors, ordinary coins can carry extraordinary potential. People are still unknowingly spending fortunes, while collectors quietly hunt these rare survivors. Check your coins. Life-changing treasures are often hiding in plain sight. And one final thought. The world of rare coins never stops revealing surprises. Even after these 25 pennies, there are hidden treasures out there, coins so subtle, so rare, that they've gone unnoticed for decades. If you thought today was shocking, the next discovery could completely change how you see your everyday change. Keep your eyes open. Your pocket may be hiding the next life-changing fortune.